Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most important, David. Let me just paraphrase the objectives tonight of David's talk. They were basically to convey the meaning and emotion of a poem to us all, and leave us feeling at the end of that poem that we really understood what the poet was trying to achieve when he wrote the poem. And I know he was reading the poems, and you might think to yourself, actually, it's thinking easy just to stand up and read a poem or read a speech. But I know from experience it's actually harder to read from a written speech or a poem and engage with the audience than it is to have no notes at all. It's counterintuitive. But I thoroughly enjoyed both poems. I'm going to start with a recommendation, David. I think it would have been helpful to provide a bit of context to the poems before you started speaking. Now, whether that was maybe the Toastmaster giving a bit more background or yourself, but I think for some people, I remember those poems from when I was at school, but some people here may not appreciate the context of those two were part of, I think, 6 or 7 poems written from Old Possum's Book of Cats by T.S. Eliot, and he was a great English poet. And the only poems he ever wrote for children were this set of Old Possum's Book of Cats. And that might have provided a bit of context to the audience, perhaps. You did explain the earling and the tree. That's something which has helped, but I think a bit more context might have helped. My teacher at school always said to me when reading poems, absolutely clear diction and absolutely follow the punctuation. Lots of pauses where the commas are, for example. I thought your diction was outstanding. I listened very carefully and I heard every single word that you enunciated during those 2 poems, David. So the diction I thought was first class. I'm going to talk about each poem separately. McCavity first, and again this is where the context might have been helpful. McCavity was a duplicitous, rather evil, sly, underhand cat. And I think that might have come over better if there'd been a bit more of a gaps at certain parts of the poem. For example, at the end of each verse in the poem, it finishes, McCavity is not there. And I think had there been more of a pause before the phrase that went before that, to then say, McCavity is not there, it might have helped the anticipation of the audience to hear, McCavity is not there, he's never around, he's duplicitous, he's just not around. So for example, but I tell you once and once again, McCavity is not there. I think again, maybe a quieter way of saying it would have helped. I thought there was great gestures though, David. Part of the way of conveying the meaning of these poems is to use lots of gestures, and I thought your gestures were very good. The way, for example, McCavity was looking through half an eye, I think you were showing at a certain part of the poem. And I was watching those gestures carefully, and I thought they were very good. I thought the second poem, Gus is an old hand, he's experienced, rather world-weary actor. And I thought this poem came over better than the first one. I thought your gestures were better, and I thought your language, the way you articulated Gus's phraseology was very good as well. I have played, so he says, every possible part. I think I'm not doing justice to you there, but I think that was good. A slight stumble in the middle, but I think had you just carried on, nobody would have noticed actually, but you drew attention to it. But I thought there was very good enunciation in the second poem. It was very, very good. And I've resolved, as a result of hearing David tonight, to read the other 5, I think, poems within the Old Possum's Book of Cats. 15. 15! Oh, sorry. Very well done, David. I thoroughly enjoyed it.